we discuss all things dog training and some of the most common cases that we've experienced, not only in our businesses but also in our lives. So I'm going to be bringing on James and Noelle here in just a moment. Hey, James, you are here and live, and Noelle, if you can hear me, you are now also live.
Hello, hello.
Hey, I can hear you.
Hey guys, can you guys see me as well?
I can see you.
Perfect. Awesome. So first of all, thank you guys for coming onto the channel. It's been a while since I've talked to both of you because I've taken a little bit of a sabbatical from dog training and Karma dog training for a little bit. But the reason why I wanted to bring you guys on was I wanted to see, one, how you guys were doing with all of the changes and with the business transitions and all of that. But also wanted to talk to you about the most common cases that you've seen, and then maybe even talk about, like, I'm going to be talking about Charlie and his travel anxiety. Since we've transitioned into van life full time, it's been quite a struggle to get him to want to live in the van. He's fine when it's stationary, but not so great whenever it's moving. And we've been constantly working on it. And I've been developing mirroring techniques to be able to help him transition. So kind of wanted to get some feedback from you guys on that as well. And hopefully we'll have a few viewers come on and with their own questions, so that they can pick your brain and you can dive into whatever you want to dive into. So Noelle, can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Awesome. I know that we don't have video on you, but I wanted to start out with James real quick and kind of introduce yourself and how you got started into dog training.
Whoa. Okay. The story to being in dog training was unexpected, totally. Essentially, what happened with me is I was working in marketing for a station, and I was working in. So I live in Houston, Texas. We have a huge mall called the Galleria, and I work in the Galleria area. This woman I was dating at the time and we found a dog on a highway, which is called 610. It's really busy around. I'm sure if you've ever been to Houston, you know what I'm talking about. We found a dog, and I started fostering dogs through there. I'm a naturally pretty anxious, high energy, high stress kind of guy, like by nature, but I work with dogs and do my own practices to combat that. But after I found that dog, it was really fulfilling. And I started volunteering at an animal shelter and started following around their dog trainer and asking her questions all the time. All the time. All the time. So, anyway, so I started following her around. She gave me books to read and stuff like that. And so I started fostering dogs that had bite histories, dogs that had been abused, dogs that were heartworm positive, all this stuff. Sick and mentally, dogs that were sick mentally and physically. And so my job was just to kind of let them be in the atmosphere and let them develop. And I really liked it. And from there, I just started to train dogs. And I went through this whole behavioral program, and it was really cool. I mean, I went to school, but not for dog training. So I kind of just learned on the go. I would take easy cases and then kind of work my way up, talk to trainers like Kayla. I mean, Kayla and I and Noelle and I used to talk on the phone all the time about this stuff. I mean, we're talking probably 4 summers ago, something like that, I think at this point. And all the while I was managing a dog walking company. So doing that, spending that much time with dogs with really not a lot of pressure training, not a lot of pressure from the owners to perform, taught me a lot about body language and situational things and staying lucid in moments with dogs. That is kind of, for me, what I've learned. And then I have 3 dogs myself. It's been a crazy journey, but I stay with it. I don't know. You just kind of feel like you're meant to do it. So you just stick with it. You always say, oh man, this is stressful. I'm never going to get this dog fixed. And then it happens. So that's how I started training dogs.
For sure. So Noelle, let's talk about how you got started in your dog training, because yours is a little bit different than James and my story. And then I'm going to tell a little bit more about my story, because my viewers have heard a little bit of my story, but not all of it, on how I got into dog training. So I'd love to hear how you got started as well.
Well, so I started off just growing up. There were a million animals in my house all the time. And then I started working at animal shelters, and I fell in love with dogs. And then I have a seizure disorder, so I ended up getting my first service dog. His name was Ringo Starfox, and I had to go through, the training with him for that, and so that's what piqued my interest about it, I guess you could say. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and so once I got through that, he was my buddy, tried and true. We went everywhere together. And he was a great seizure alert dog. And so once I moved to Houston, I'm from San Antonio. Once I moved to Houston, he didn't transition very well, so I retired him from that. And then I ended up rescuing Bluebell and put her through the training as well. I know I have weird names for my dogs.
We love Bluebell, man. Bluebell's the best.
um, and she's right here on the bed with me right now. Um, but so yeah, we went through all of that again, and she, because she was a rescue, she went through some rough times. She was younger, so we had to work on a lot of counter conditioning with her.
Right.
It was there were some rough patches to say the least.
First.
But she's doing much better, and well, she's great now, but
Yeah.
I'm actually about to retire her because she's almost 10. So
Oh my gosh, she's already 10?
yeah,
Where did the
yeah,
time go? Okay.
we're getting old, dude. So that's anyway. After Ringo, I got Bluebell. I started going through the process with her, and then I came across Karma, and that's kind of when I really picked up that. And so now I'm just doing private clients, but I'm really enjoying it, and I love dogs.
So awesome. So awesome. So, so that's really great that you guys both came from a type of a rescue background, right? So how I got started in dog training was I was working in the mental health system, and I was doing animal assisted therapy. So I would go to the shelters and pick up dogs that needed to be walked or whatever, and I'd take them over to group homes, and we would do animal assisted therapy with them. And I saw how all of the dogs started to really thrive whenever they got out, and also my client or my consumers really did well whenever it came to the therapy sessions. So I decided I was going to go to school. I get my degree in animal behavior, and start that journey. Then it was I worked with the Humane Society. I quit my job with the mental health authority just because of some personal issues, and I started to dive really into the dog training aspect. So I had a mentor trainer that was phenomenal. Her name was Deneen. She's up in New York, and at that time she was in Foley, Alabama, and we spent a lot of time trying to figure out how to communicate with dogs, and she had her methods, and I just absorbed as much as I could from her. And then I started to notice some of my own behaviors when it came to dogs, when I would interact with dogs that I didn't have a foundation with. And then when I moved to Houston after my dad passed away, I kind of put dog training aside and said I needed to go get a real job. And that real job put me back into the mental health system, where I was working for the greater Houston area's psychiatric hospitals. And I left dog training behind altogether. And I really just didn't dive into any of it. I didn't want to look at my dad's death. I didn't want to look at the fact that I could dog train and do something different with my life. I thought that it just had to be difficult. And so that started the downward spiral of me. Ended up in the bed for a year. And it wasn't until after my neck surgery and after that year of constant rehabilitation and spending the time with Charlie, because Charlie was with me throughout that entire process and helped me heal myself and kind of face all of those things. And on the other side of that, whenever I started to realize that I was utilizing my same training techniques with Charlie to be able to help me get through the most difficult time of my life, I decided that it was time for me to start to really look for another job with dogs. And that's when I came across Karma. and Jeff, and he gave me the first opportunity to really dive into what it meant to consciously train dogs. And he helped me see some things in myself and the way that I was doing, communicating with my clients, and then ultimately led to being able to mentor you guys from time to time as you came across. So, you know, it was the first time that you came into Karma, and I remember, James, you were meeting that little black and white French bulldog, and I walked right up and I looked at you. I kind of checked you out, and I was like, okay, here's the deal. How is he interacting with the client? How is he interacting with this dog? What is his body language like? What is he like? And you checked off all of the boxes, and I think it was about halfway through, I was like, you got this, you're good. And I was like, just call me if you have any problems. And it was from that point on, we had a constant communication throughout the entire time. And if you had a problem with a client, we would talk through it. We always came up with a great solution. And Noelle, your situation was very similar whenever you came on to Karma. I think our first conversation was like 2 hours long, where we talked about all things dog training and where we were at. So I'm super grateful for the both of you, because both of you have taught me so much throughout this entire process. You know, whereas like, you know, in the first beginnings, I'm like, okay, well, I have to teach you guys how to do certain things. But ultimately, both of you taught me so much about myself and my communication style. And you actually got to see my transition, my physical transition, and my spiritual transition real time. So I kind of want to talk about that too, as far as like what you guys have seen a change in me and the way that you've seen me grow, because you guys have grown so much to where you're both, you know, thriving in your own businesses. Noelle, you now have a family, which that wasn't even in your wheelhouse at the time that we were hanging out and really getting together. So you know, the transition of you guys over the past several years has just been incredible. So what are the things that you've kind of noticed over the past several years as far as the transition that you've seen in me?
Oh gosh, I mean, I'll start. Yeah, because I remember that day vividly. That dog was a reactive French bulldog.
Mm-hmm.
Who, I mean, I remember getting bit by him several times. He's a good boy, but he just overstimulated, much like myself at the time. Didn't know how to chant, snippy, grumpy, grouchy. I mean, the thing that you told me when I first met you, you were like, "Hey, I'll be cool with you, but I got boundaries." And you know, I think that was the first time. And you were always nice to me, and I was I would get really stressed. I would overwork myself. I think a lot of dog trainers will do that. We'll overwork ourselves.
Passion fatigue.
Yeah, and and I'm just now getting to the point where I'm like, I'm about to go out of town. This is literally the last thing I'm doing, and then I'm turning off my phone until next Tuesday.
Very nice.
So anyway, how it relates to you, but I just, you taught me about these boundaries and how to do that. And I'm just now realizing how to put those up. So, I mean, doing that, it's a process. And so, for you, I think, I don't know, man, we have so many long talks on the phone about dogs, about clients, how to handle clients, which I don't know if we're going to go into all that stuff, but, the thing is, most clients, really like 90% of the clients are all awesome, and that are, like it's very rare, and especially working with Karma, I've been set up with good people most of the time.
Right.
But the thing is, for you, I think what I realized in you is you had those boundaries, and I think you were like telling yourself at that time, like, okay, I'm gonna have this boundaries, I'm gonna let this person into my life a little bit. But I mean, and I always remember that, and I always want to respect him. But you would constantly let me call you, "Hey, Kayla, oh my God, this is going on," and you always handled it very well. And I think that you didn't let that energy, like, you didn't meet me with that on that same level, so it like diffused me. And I think like bringing that into your own life, and like, I think it's really important to with your kickboxing and stuff like that, like letting yourself vent out that stuff. Talking feels good, but it can also like jumble everything up.
Right.
So, for you, just getting in tune with yourself and like listening to yourself a little better. And then, we've had professional and personal conversations, and then the personal changes that you made in your life with your interpersonal stuff. It's tough to do. And, and I've constantly seen you grow, and, we haven't talked a lot in probably 4 or 5 months, definitely since COVID, but I still think that's good. And, realizing, when people are asking for space without asking for space in a way. And I think that you're really great at communicating that. So being able to see your path, being able to grow to that. And, putting those boundaries up with clients, putting those boundaries up with dogs, and just people that are in your life, even people that we really care about and value so much, as we do with a lot of the team at Karma. But sometimes it's really hard to say, like, hey, I like you guys, you're great, but like, no, not now. Like, please, no. And I would always get so worried, like, oh, I'm gonna offend Kayla, or I'm gonna offend the head of Karma, Jeff, or or this or that. I'm gonna offend this client. But like, no, like, people need that direction. Otherwise, they're just gonna say, well, hey, like, But I realized, I'm sure you can attest to this. It's like, once you're really direct with people on that sort of stuff, things tend to be a lot smoother, and you get a lot of the feedback and stuff that you want. I'm trying to get my dog Zoe in the picture. You can see her. She's laying right here. That's Zoe. She's an American Bulldog Lab mix. She's my girlfriend Erica's dog. I think she's like 7. She's really cool. So just seeing you grow has been cool. And like, dude, it's not gonna. I'm trying to adjust my camera here, and that growth isn't gonna stop. Only if you want it to. But I'm certainly not done growing and progressing. And the thing is, too, the last thing I'll say, something that I thought was really interesting. I constantly think to myself, if times get slow, I'm like, oh, this isn't a real job. But dude, I'm telling you, it is. Like, I'll pull up and like meet assistants. I'm like, dude, I mean, like, look, life is not all about possessions and things like that, but it can be helpful. Like, I have a truck based upon this. I have savings that I've accrued just doing this, picking my own schedule, wearing T-shirts and sandals. I don't wear those to meet clients. I'll try to wear a nice pair of sneakers and like look stylish and everything. But it's a blessing. And the thing is you have to kind of the thing with dog training is you kind of have to do it for yourself. And each dog is going to be different. Each trainer is going to have different styles. So I try not to come from like a place that's going to shame another trainer's learning style. But yeah, I know I'm kind of just going on and on, but I am passionate about this stuff, and
absolutely, as you should be.
I mean, you have to be.
You have to be. I mean, as a fellow dog trainer and passionate human being, when it comes to what we do, you have to really put yourself first in this, because we mirror exactly what we want the dogs to do. Noelle, when it comes to what you've seen, because you saw me kind of at my worst when it came to like my personal development, and as far as like where I was in my relational dynamics and things like that. So you actually got to see not only that side, but you also got to see the professional side of me, which I tried to keep as separate as possible, but there was a cross there. So you got to see some of the grosser things of my life, which I consider to be my shadow work and my greatest blessings, because without transitioning through that, I wouldn't be who I am today. And you actually went to my very first kickboxing with me. So that was phenomenal.
You made me go the day after Thanksgiving. Like, I'm like bloated. I have eaten so much food. And we get to go do 50 burpees.
Yep. If I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it right. Got to have my family with me, man.
Drag me down with you. No, I mean, but seeing your development and your personal growth, along with your professional growth, it really has been inspirational. And you've seen mine. I've struggled with my demons as well, and I think that that we've both grown a lot in the last 4 years. I think we've both. I mean, the last conversation we had was about essential oils.
Yeah, so, exactly.
But no, just the way I remember, like, for instance, the way you handle people, not just the dogs, but the people, that's a huge aspect of it. And like with Tank and Dozer, for instance, like,
my babies.
Oh, we all know them. Yeah.
We all know Tank and Dozer, and Tiny now.
Yes, and Tiny.
But remember how reactionary they were, and the way you worked with their parents to help them get over that was a big learning experience for me. I ended up doing a board and train with them because I wanted to do it. It was like, okay, she can do it, I can do it. But that was like a pivotal moment for me, because I hadn't really worked with reactionary dogs too much. And once I met them, I fell in love, and now I kind of want to get a pit bull, but that would be impulsive and not a good idea.
Maybe not just yet. Maybe after Bluebell, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, those dogs. They're such a blessing because they have such distinct personalities. And to deal with them on a level to where you can communicate with them and their parents and get some cohesion in that environment, all they really want is their parents to be home 24/7, which COVID provided beautifully for them.
Right.
So they've had some really phenomenal behavioral changes and shifts because they got exactly what they wanted. They got their parents home full time. So they're getting the interaction that they wanted. They're getting the socialization and all of that. And their Great Dane Tiny is ginormous. I can't wait to see him again when I get back into Houston. So I can't wait to see all of them. Actually, if I can get all of you together too, that would be amazing.
Totally.
So let's see. Gosh, yeah. So there's been transformations all the way across the board on all of us because James, when you started, you were very shy. You didn't want to talk about how you really felt about things. You didn't want to hurt anybody's feelings. It was
Right.
very, and you would let people just keep walking right over you. And Noelle, yours was opposite of that. There was definitely some other dynamics there. So how do you guys feel about, when you take on a case, do you feel that particular dog is allowing you to learn something about yourself, or are you allowing an opportunity for somebody else to learn from you, or both? And in those dynamics, do you feel like, how can you best serve in those dynamics?
Oh gosh. I don't want to just. Okay, I know what to say. Okay, I didn't want to step. I didn't want to step on anybody if they were thinking. Yeah, I mean, the thing was, it's not that I had a lack of confidence in myself. Like, I mean, I knew I could do some of this stuff, but I was also worried that the thing is and I live with my girlfriend and our 3 dogs now. And the thing that I always worry about is, oh, this client isn't going to be happy with the results they're going to get. And
right.
when you approach it from fear, the dog picks up on that, you know, a lot of the time too. I always ended up being successful. I think I've probably done over 100 board and trains at this point. It seems like I would definitely think so. And I've only had three cases that ended negatively, and which I think is pretty good. And you know, and honestly, the cases that I did accept were 2 of those, in my opinion, were things I shouldn't have done anyway. I did it for a paycheck, and you do that. That can be good, and it can be really, really bad. And this time, it's bad. And this was the last time, and I was dealing with it at the very beginning of this year. A dog who was like yelling, a client that was like yelling at their dog for going potty in the house, and then yelling at them because their dog wasn't going in, taking too long to poop. And I remember, this was the last time I talked to you. I called you about it, and they were griping about it. What do I do? And then after that, I was like, no more of this. That doesn't mean I'm not going to take challenging cases, but you know, for me, I have to be able to learn from somebody. Like, I just came from a house where I got to work with a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old kid and a sheepadoodle. And I learned a lot from being able to communicate with kids and, you know, understanding, like seeing this mom parent her kid while also being attentive to me and training the dog. And, you know, when you're in that scenario, because the thing is like, you have to, the goal is, you know, people say, oh, you know, it's all training the parent too. Yeah, you know, you do need to train the dog. But what I try to tell people, and the biggest thing I try to tell people to where they can be receptive to things is like, okay, for one, I always say this is not Hogwarts. Like, it's not like fairy dust. Like, this is work. But also the main thing is like, you can't rely on your dog. Like, you need to rely on yourself. And if you know what to do and stay lucid in those moments, if you can rely on yourself, your dog is there going to rely on you. And then you're going to have an obedient dog. So if you're relying on yourself to say, okay, like, I know this dog has a boundary on this, then we need to take a break, you know, or need to do this, then, you know, your dog can do it. So rather than just saying, like, if you want your dog to come when called, Zoe, she's going to perk up. So then instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to rely on her. I'm going to rely on my hands. I'm going to say, hey, come on. So yes. and you're stoking a fire, essentially. You're stoking things in dogs. You're making, yes, you want this to be bigger and bigger and bigger and get it bigger and bigger. And that's what I kind of try to tell pet parents. But at the same time, it's individual for each dog. So I found making like outlines really helps a lot for me. Just getting all that information out so it's streamlined for the pet parents. So yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. What about you, Noelle? Noelle, are you there? Oh, she may have gone to take care of the baby. So for me, when it comes to the dynamics of when I take a case, the first thing that I look at is, you know, what is the behavioral problem that I'm diving into?
Sure.
Because most of the cases that I take are behavioral. I typically will not take your basic obedience anymore, unless I'm doing a larger class or something like that. So I typically will take a behavioral case. Then I look at the dynamics within the family that I'm working with. And because I am an empath and I am very empathetic and I can see energies and things like that, it makes it a little bit easier for me to kind of navigate those things without bringing everything to the surface. So for example, if I go into a house and I see that, you know, a pet parent is, I would say, let's take a most common case. Let's see. I go into a house and the pet parent is like, my dog cannot greet somebody, you know, without jumping all over them, and they can't go to the door, and you know, when they do get in, they can't settle down, and and they go on with all these things. And I pay attention to the way that they greet me at the door, not the way the dog greets me at the door, the way that the pet parent greets me at the door, because the mirroring that happens is between the pet parent and the dog. So the way that the pet parent greets me at the door tells me exactly what I need to know to be able to bounce back and correct the behavior of the dog, because I deconstruct it and then put in new dynamics based off of my mirroring. So when I step in, I'm going to give, I make sure that my aura is clean. I make sure that my chakras are aligned and my breathing techniques are taken care of, because when those three things are done, when I walk in, I'm in a neutral space. When I'm in a neutral space, the dog immediately will come to me and want to participate with whatever I'm doing. But because I'm not giving it directed action, I'm not giving it directed attention, it wants to earn my attention. So from that point, I allow that dog to come into me, to come into my bubble, to earn my attention. How does a dog earn your attention? It's not by jumping on you. It's not by barking. It's not by tearing up all your shit. It's about sitting next to you and actually asking for permission to engage. Once I get that, I am on easy street. I can now mirror everything that I want that dog to do and then tell the pet parent how to achieve those same things. But telling them is not telling them you have to do X, Y, and Z. That's just tasks. You know, doing a task is as simple as, hey, when you want your dog to sit, don't yell at it and say sit, 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 sit. Look at its butt. Don't say a thing and breathe. Totally. It'll do it. You know, it's a matter of how you use your body when you communicate. It's about how you mirror what you want, and dogs communicate telepathically. So when we're combating all of these behavioral problems or even basic obedience, all you have to do is display in your mind exactly what you want the dog to do, and then reach the vibrational alignment to it, and the dog does it immediately. You know, and James, we've talked about this on several occasions on different, you know, we use different words whenever we talked about it, but it's the same thing. You know, sure. We use distance, duration, and distraction when it comes to training with the counter conditioning method. You know, don't change the distance, you know, or increase the distance if you're going to increase the distraction, or, you know, take your time instead of making sure that, you know, if the dog's stressed out, and reading their body language.
Well, the thing is too, you know, like going into somebody's house, like, you know, if I'm bringing in all my baggage and bull BS that I'm having with each and every day, if I'm ticked off, someone cut me off. If I'm mad, I have like a ticket or an extra bill. You know, like you can't bring that in. You have to be, you do have to be neutral, because otherwise the dog is going to pick up on it. You're not going to be there with the dog, you know. They're not going to be present, and the dog is going to be, it depends on the dog. They're going to be everywhere, you know, doing that, because that's how it feels, you know. And I feel like in our psychologies, you know, I mean, you've worked in loads of mental health scenarios. I mean, our psychologies are totally different, but what I try to do is I try to relate to the dog in a certain way. And I guess that is being empathetic, or at least trying to be, with each dog, and understanding their fear, understanding their excitement, and not like making them feel like crap about it, but also just
Right.
teaching them how to manage it. Like, it's okay. Like Rigby, my little dog, it's okay. You're kind of a crazy pants goofball, very anxious little guy, Rigby, but like, I'm going to show you how to deal with it. I'm going to show you what you can do instead of that. And,
Right.
you know, and I think that really helps me a lot. So, you know, I do a lot of board and train work. I feel comfortable there because I don't have like eyes watching me. But I mean, it's also very exhausting because you have a dog in your home and, you know, you're on call 24/7. But
Yeah.
at the same time, if you're pretty, like, I worked with this Weimaraner right at the beginning of COVID, who was jumping up. I mean, big, long girl, just jumping up, biting butts, just all this sort of stuff. And what I did is I had to tell myself, like, okay, no rough house with my dogs when we're here. No crazy outbursts for me. Like, just neutral. The whole, not good, not bad, but rewarding whenever there's things I did. And she did that. And they, like, I mean, I haven't heard from them in a couple of months, but you know, they didn't even capitalize on their second session they had because they were like, she's good. I don't know how that happens. So it is magic sometimes, but at the same time,
so okay,
you know, so I don't know.
Let's take that dynamic real quick. So that's okay. You know what? You're back. Good. Yay. I was just about to dive into the difference between when you take a board and train session and a private session. So when the board and train session, or in the private session, you're teaching the daily practices that we put into place to the pet parent, and they're to put it into action. Whereas when we take in a board and train, we're doing the daily actions that it requires to maintain these behaviors because we know all of the steps, and it's the transference of it, right? So if a dog comes to me with some severe behavioral problems and we take it into a board and train program, give me 3 days and you have a completely different dog. Give me the rest of that week and you're going to get consistency in the results, you know? So it's a matter of, are you able to take on that dynamic and transfer the information appropriately? Because when you take the dog out of the environment, you reprogram the behaviors that you want, you put them right back into the same environment, but you don't teach the skills that is required, then you just have a dog that doesn't get to practice anything that you've ever taught it. Not to mention you have a pet parent that's also communicating a very opposite language of what you've instilled. So when it comes to a board and train program, how do you feel like you best communicate the transference of behavior, and how would you describe it to somebody?
Oh man, for me, what I do, and I do this because I like my clients to have something tangible. I record training modules every day, so that's showing you like the practice of things and just what I do. But I gamify it for each client, so I try to put it into actual practice.
Sure.
So if it's jumping, I try to set up different scenarios that are going to be congruent with, you know, some of the things that they've been dealing with. So if the dog is biting mom when she comes in, I say, okay, mom, how does that make you feel internally? Like, does that make you anxious, and how does that anxiety manifest itself? And so, you know, so you're kind of doing some therapy. I'm by therapist, but you are doing some therapy with some of these folks, and helping them kind of work on themselves a little bit, because it's something internal that their dog is doing. You know, Rigby and I, like my girlfriend, she'll be like, dude, Rigby is exactly like you. Like, he gets grumpy at night. He doesn't want to be social. He wants to just chill. But in the morning, he wakes up and he's like, you know, to the moon and shot out of a cannon. So what I tell people is, I just try to say, you know, look for the things you want with your dog. What do you want your dog to do? Okay, now reward them comparably. That doesn't mean, you know, I when I first started dog training, I would be like, treats. And now I really am like, I just try to reward the behaviors that they're doing with my attention. And that's what I really try to focus on. Now, if it's walking, if it's something that's really, really valuable to me, if loose leash walking is something that I find to be pretty tedious to teach. I've gotten a lot better and a lot more success with it in the past 12 to 18 months. But when I first started, I was just like, oh, geez. so I do work off treats there. I do work off treats a lot there.
That's the one thing I will not use treats for.
Is loose leash walking?
Loose leash walking is one thing I will not use treats for. I only use freedom-based behaviors whenever it comes to loose leash walking. So basically, I'm going to start out with a very small circle, of maybe even 6 feet. You know, it's not a very big circle. And if that dog wants to earn to get out of the circle, they have to be able to walk in my pattern, follow my direction, follow my eyes, follow my feet in that small space. Once they can do it in that small space, I expand it. So for example, like whenever I teach it at somebody's home, we start leash walking inside the house. The lowest distraction area possible. Let's get the base behavior that we want, and then immediately take it out into the backyard. Once I get a really good walk in the backyard, I take it out into the front yard. Once I take it out in the front yard, we go down the street. Each time that I do that, I'm gradually making this bubble around the dog much, much bigger, right? But I have to start out really small. So I don't take treats because I'm not going to be trying to do all of that all at the same time. I'm going to work on the time that I get the skill and make sure that it's 100% before I graduate the area. As I graduate the area, I will start adding distractions, or I'll start adding more things. But if the dog is already at a point where I walk out the front door and they're pulling on the leash, they haven't earned a walk. They don't even know what to do at that point. So instead of fighting the dog the entire way, I have to come up with a plan that I know that this dog can actually achieve. Because the belief system that's already there, because they've practiced all of this crap walking for so long, the belief system that the pet parent has about the dog is so strong that they can't even get past the fact that they can't even get through the front door. So if I can prove to them in their own environment, in their backyard and in their front yard, that they can actually get this behavior, the belief system starts to change, and they also gain confidence in their skill. And then we get into patterning, because the dogs don't generalize. The only thing that they can do is they recognize the pattern, right? So if the pattern's exactly the same in every environment, and you are consistent and you are present, that is the most important. You are present in that walk. You'll get a consistent walk every single time with no treats at all.
Being present, that's the main thing. Yeah, you're exactly right. You have to think like, you can't think, oh, well, what am I doing later? It's like, no, this is what we're doing in this moment, and we're in this moment together. Yeah, I've started to do that too. Getting it in the front, getting it done. I'll start my garage, and then I'll go backyard, and then I'll go on just my street and just kind of get them used to that. And once I started doing that, that's when, rather than like, you know, and if people can see me, rather than, you know, like I'll teach puppy classes, and like, you know, sometimes I'll teach people like, okay, like treat, dude, who the hell walks like this?
Nobody wants to do that, and you're gonna fall on your face.
Corgi,
I mean,
it's like all the way down here. Which I do have a corgi mix. I think he's a
right.
Corgi mix. Kayla says he's a toller, but anyway, we're getting into inside baseball. But
Noelle,
yeah.
what do you think, Noelle? And on some of your leash walking stuff, do you use treats or no treats?
I do my best to avoid treats. I'll use like with Bluebell, for instance, because like I said, I had to counter condition her a lot. And so when we would be walking and she'd see another dog, when I first got her, she was really reactive. And so, sorry, my voice is kind of hoarse. I would just use the word frisbee, and then we'd go inside and she'd get a drink of water or whatever. And I know that's frowned upon by some people, but but as far as actually getting her, I don't know if you remember that time. I think it was Tank and Dozer that we were walking them across the street with each other. Yeah. I do something similar to that. But she, I thankfully don't have to do that anymore. But she would react to words and would totally forget that I said that word. And I know that sounds like an empty threat, kind of.
Right.
It got the job done. So
sure.
And now she's to the point where she can walk past another dog, no problem. Like she's totally
awesome. Totally. So leash reactivity is a little different for me when it comes to when it comes to treating. So loose leash walking and then the leash reactivity are going to be two opposite ends of the spectrum. So leash reactivity is something that we worked on with Tank and Dozer because it was them two, and then they had like this a whole nother family of dogs that we were trying to integrate into, and so there was an aspect of creating a threshold of reactivity and being able to give a treat, and that does work a lot whenever it comes to a new environment as well. But when it comes to just like your regular leash walking with like your regular with your clients and maybe a new puppy or something like that, would you utilize a treat for that situation, or would you just try to use more along the lines of patience?
I would, patience, threshold training, and I would start off, like you said, neutral territory, indoors, backyard,
Mm-hmm.
whatever, and make sure they have nailed those commands, whether it be sit or stay or wait or whatever you're going to
Sure.
say. And
Sure.
then get outside, and the second it becomes an issue, you turn around and go back inside.
Absolutely. So one of the things that I try to really hone into my clients is that dogs learn nose, eyes, ears. The nose opens first to be able to find mama's ninny, so if I get food. Then the eyes and the ears open shortly, 2 weeks later or so. So whenever we try to communicate with dogs, one of the most common issues that I have, and I want to hear about you guys too, but one of the most common issues that I have is my dog doesn't listen to me. Right? So I get that constantly. My dog doesn't listen to me. My dog doesn't do this. My dog doesn't do that.
Can I jump in?
Yeah.
I think a lot of that is people using repetition. Because if you say
That's a very good point.
sit, they're going to become numb to that command, if that makes
Sure.
any sense.
Absolutely.
So it's kind of like when a parent counts 3.
Mm-hmm.
Once you hit 3, then you stop. You stop doing whatever you're doing and you go back.
Sure. So
if
when
you're
it
not
comes
listening,
to
if they're not listening, then you're just going to activate their nose. That's what I was saying with Zoe. It's like I mean, she knows her name well, but if I say Zoe, hey Zoe, hey, look over, hey Zoe, she's gonna be what the heck? But if I make crab hands at her nose, hey girl, you can just get a quick little thing. You can grow that,
Sure.
So.
And they don't speak English, so there's that.
Right. There is a communication gap there. They don't speak the native language, right?
Sure.
So the thing that I have that has been a major factor for me that I've changed in my dog training protocol since the beginning of with Karma dog training, and as I transitioned into my own way of doing things and all of that, is that I don't use words for 90% of my training. They don't have a foundation of the language, so why do I going to waste my energy to project something that they're not going to be able to understand? So when it comes to communication, when it comes to the pet parents, I tell them no words. We don't want to use any words in the beginning of dog training. I want them to start to recognize your frequency and your body language. Once I can get that under control, then we can move into adding language, right? Because it's kind of like you have a 3-year-old foreign exchange student in your house, you're not going to be able to communicate. Oh, Rippy!
He was at my door.
I miss him so much.
Look at him.
He's so sweet. Oh my gosh.
He's emotional. He's real emotional.
Oh, he's totally emotional. Him's so baby. He's such an emotional boy. Such an emotional boy. He's such a sweet boy. So whenever I first train my clients, I tell them no language. We're not using any kind of words when it comes to the dog training. I want the dogs to start to understand the frequency. So
oh my
what's
gosh.
the baby doing? Oh my gosh, look at her.
She's happy.
It's so amazing. So Bluebell is service dog too. And James, did Rigby ever get his weren't you doing rally with him?
I wanted to do an ESA thing for him because he if I'm anxious, if I can take him somewhere, take him on a drive, it really helps that. I haven't done the steps to do it, but I think he would do okay. I would like to think he would do phenomenal.
Yeah, I think he'd do great. And Charlie's down here in the floor.
Crap, so I'm not going to be on the video, but Bluebell can be on the video.
There you go.
Hey,
there's
buddy.
Charlie boy. He's out of it. He's done.
Oh my gosh! Here in a second, once we start to wrap up, I want to show you our dog Calvin, because Charlie's like a little version of Calvin. I don't know if you've ever met him, but
I saw Calvin on your Facebook, and I absolutely agree with you, and I do want to see that. So before we wrap up, I do want to talk about. I do want to talk about travel anxiety. that was something that I really wanted to bring up, because in the mirroring techniques that I've done, I've dived into all of these spiritual aspects. I use metaphysical healings, I do chakra alignments, I use crystals, I use all kinds of stuff on Charlie, and we've gotten to a point where he's gotten better at certain aspects. When we first got the van, he would literally throw himself from one end of the van to the other to try to get out of the van. I mean, like suicide throws. And especially if I would try to crank the van. If I sat in the front, it was over. He'd start panting, shaking. At some point, he was throwing up. It was really, really, really bad. So I used the typical counter conditioning methods, as far as like spending time in here without the engine running, making sure that the air conditioner's running, just letting him acclimatize to it. And while we are stationary, he is, for the most part, I would say about 100%, unless if we hear some fireworks, he has a little bit of a problem. And if I look like I'm about to start to leave, we have a little bit more of a problem. So I start to do those processes over and over of like, I'm going to look like I'm going to go turn on the chassis. I'm going to take the shades down. I'm going to do all of these things. And, throughout the process, yes, it's gotten a lot better, but I want to expedite that process. So I'm going to do an experiment this week, and I would like you guys' help on some ways that I can really amp up his training. And then also I'm going to be developing some CBD treats over the next couple of weeks. And I would love it if you guys had some clients that you'd like to test them out on, or even have some feedback on things like that. Because I will be mass producing those at some point, to be able to have some extra help as far as like anxiety and control over separation anxiety, or any other travel anxieties or whatever. So Noelle, I want to start with you. What are some of the ways, and have you had some clients that had travel anxiety, and what were some of your greatest hindrances and also achievements in that process?
Hindrances kind of go without saying, like throwing up, using the restroom, car, that type of thing.
Right.
I think the CBD treats would be very beneficial, but that's I'm kind of a hippie too, so there's that. But I think that if you create it, like if you make some, if you want to send them to me, then I will try them on Bluebell, because she is terrible with thunderstorms.
Absolutely.
Like, she just freaked out when I said the word THUNDER. It's okay. There's no thunder. It's all I mean, it's really a tough call. My sister's a vet tech, and she's got a dog named Charlie as well, golden retriever, and he loses his crap literally every time they go in the car, every single time.
Yep.
And so she, not a huge fan of giving dogs medication if you don't have to, but
sure.
she literally has to give him trazodone to make him chill out. And I've thought of doing that with Bluebell with the thunderstorms, but I'm not comfortable with it.
So here's the interesting part about that. Charlie has been on trazodone. He's been on puppy Prozac. He's tried Adaptil. We've tried Thunder Shirts. We have gone through the gamut of all of traditional methods when it comes to anxiety control and keeping him on long-term medications. So I've gone that route. And the surprising factor on it is completely ineffective. Nothing. There's no change in his behavior. He doesn't get sleepy. He doesn't even, there's no advert, like there's no change in his behavior at all. The only thing that actually changed his behavior was whenever I did a meditation walkthrough where I did a past life regression with him, where we went to an accident scene where we both died at the same time. And once that particular thing was done, I was able to get him back into a crate. But even in the crate, he still pants to the point of drooling and things like that. So we were able to kind of get some of that done. So I was thinking about the first thing that I'm going to do as far as this week goes is I'm going to be administering more CBD to try to do that. Starting the treating, working on more adjustments with the crate to get him more acclimatized to that. And then, of course, the slow progression of keeping the van on and things like that over the next week. But keep in mind, we've been in this van for 8 months now. So
been a while.
There has to be something else that maybe there's something I'm missing.
I just sound weird, but I'm a master level Reiki practitioner. Maybe that might help. I've never done Reiki on dogs. But we could try it next time you're in town. I don't know.
I do distance Reiki as well, and I do Reiki on him every day. He gets cleared every day. And you're more than welcome to do any kind of energy work on him. I highly recommend it. And if that's something that do you offer Reiki as a side business, or is that something that you?
It's something I do. I don't charge for it, basically, so I wouldn't call it a business.
I would highly recommend utilizing the things like that you can, because when I started using Reiki in my dog training, everything shifted.
Okay.
Know your worth. Make that money. Get that financial
Make that
health.
money.
Yeah, I mean, money is money, but it's a good tool.
I just feel like because it's a natural process, it's unfair to charge for it. But
well, okay. First of all, being able to direct energy is a gift, and to be able to be charged for it is just your way of being able to pay yourself back for utilizing your energy resources, because you're expending a lot of energy while you're doing that. So for you to take monetary gains for it, unless you're getting some other exchange, some other energy exchange, you need to be charging for your work.
That is very true.
It is very true.
It's funny you say that too. I think about that with like my dog training stuff. I'm like, dude, I mean, like, it is a job, like, for sure. Mm-hmm. Like, it is a job, and I love puppies, don't get me wrong. And I love dogs. I love reactive dogs. I love every kind of dog.
Right.
For the most part. It's more so owners that stress me out, and people that I can't accept their vibes and all that stuff. And if I can't accept their vibes, I'm like, I immediately will say, this is not worth any amount. I mean, any logical amount. But anyway, so the thing is, like, I'll be talking to people, and people are like, you know, I got a very nice compliment today after a session, but and it's great, and it fuels you throughout your day. But the thing is too is, like, I'm like, man, you know, like, it's not necessarily that it's easy. I'm like, dude, this just seems like, how am I able to do this, and and some, you know, people aren't on that same level. So, you know, if we can offer them that, something that can give them peace of mind and streamline their life. And, you know, the thing that I try to do with dogs is make sure, you know, we work with a lot of corporate professionals, especially living in Houston, people with oil and gas, energy sector,
medical,
work in that field, for example. And they don't have the time to do it. So I try to give them something that is going to be streamlined, something they can, like, work into their day. But the thing is that makes them obvious, it makes it easy, but it's not. And people, like, they really value that stuff. So, you know, there was a space that we were in, and this relates all back to what you just said to Noelle. There was a space that we were working in that was, oh God, I'll remember it for years. And, like, just, like, knowing, like, what kind of vibes I do not want to be around. And you were doing a service there, and you were like, dude, like, I'm cool to do this for you, person, but do you know what this is worth? Do you know what this is worth to me? And do you know how much value there is in this? And it may not look like a lot to the untrained eye. Not me. Right. I knew what you were up to, but, like, but it's valuable. There's value there.
You know, doing the energy. Okay, so what you're talking about is energy clear. It's energy clearings on the actual building itself. So to be able to have these classes that we needed to be able to have, we had to be able to clear out this energy. It was such a negative, static vortex of negativity, to where it would disrupt every aspect of the class. The dogs would be reactive that would normally not be reactive. People would be drained of all of their energy. So when I walked in the door, I had to immediately sage. I was doing all kinds of energy closing vortexes and all this stuff to be able to create a safe bubble for us to have our classes and to have the coherence that we needed in that space. Now, since I did that, James, you'll be very, very interested to know that things have shifted in that place. It was once we had, yes, everything has shifted. Not only is she cancer free, but the business is thriving. They're back together. It's a wonderful, wonderful experience to be able to see them. Once I pulled away, I did the energies, I pulled away, we pulled the business away, and they are thriving. I am very much looking forward to being able to go back and to be able to celebrate the cancer remission as well as the business. Yeah.
That's awesome. Amazing, because there was this place, and we've all taught classes together. There's this place, and like you walked into this joint, and it would like hit you in the, I mean, literally. Like, I'm not on the level as maybe you guys are with, like, you know, just there's things that I don't know about. There's things that but I can feel vibes. I know that sounds very like,
no, like you're good.
Like, but you can feel these vibes, and like I always kind of just run with that. If someone gives me weird vibes, I immediately like, dude, you can see like the vein in my neck like sticking up. I get very nervous. And I don't know how to tell those people, like, I can't work with you. You can't do that. And I let those people walk over me. And that's what was happening there. But like, we talked, and it was like, it was really not insane in the best way. It was really interesting and really like kind of mind blowing that something so crappy ended up turning into something that I learned a lot about through that, and knowing, okay, I can't be around this type of person, this type of like building, this type of like, you know, and because the thing is like, you know, I'm not going to say their name, but like if you look online, they have like great Yelp reviews. And I'm like, what? How? But they always have. So maybe it was just a weird period that I just came in. Anyway, it was just really. There was
a definite energy. There was something that needed to be learned on all parties there. We all had to learn something through that experience.
Sure.
There was an aspect of standing in your own power, creating boundaries, understanding and discerning different energies and how to navigate them with grace and ease, knowing that each one of us is going through a transitionary period, and also having compassion for where other people are at. You know, not only was a relationship changing, but health was at risk, and so was a business.
Right.
So how do you navigate that without projecting all of your fears onto another person or into your space? You know, and so teaching them and embracing that and saying, hey, you know, you're in charge of your energy. You're creating these vortexes. You're inviting these things in without saying, hey, you're fucking up. You know, it's a matter of saying, you know, hey, are you seeing this? If you're seeing this and you're feeling it and all that, I can help you move through it, but I'm not going to do it for you. And that's what some of it was, is wanting it to be done for them. You know, we'll just throw some money at it, it'll be fine. And that's not it, you know, and that's how a lot of people are when it comes to dog training, when it comes to their personal, when they're self-growth, we just throw some money at it, it'll be fine. That's not the way it works. You know, you actually have to dive into those emotions. You have to dive into what it is that you're actually trying to navigate. You know, when it comes to a personal relationship or even your dog, are you looking at yourself? You know, when it comes to those things, are you being overly vocal? Are you being overly judgmental? Are you being reactive in your daily life? Are you overly excited about certain things in an unbalanced way, whether it's in a positive way or a negative way? Because all of those things will start to show in your relationships. And then for me, that place taught me how I was so powerful with my energy work. It showed me exactly what I needed to be able to do, to be able to focus my energy, to be able to maintain my own sanctuary, if you will, because controlling that environment and to be able to have those classes for as long as I did, allowed me to grow as an energetic and to remember who I am. So I find that was the biggest blessing is going through that and then seeing their growth as well. You know,
well, I mean, it can hit you when you don't expect it, and you kind of have to be open to it. You know, you really do. Even if something's a shitty experience, you kind of have to be. And so I'm somebody who like immediately jumps to, oh, this is going to be terrible. This is going to be awful. That's my natural reaction with everything. You know, I mean, the past I've spent, 98% of my time with my girlfriend, and you know, it's great. You know, but she's like, you're always like, see, wasn't that fine? Wasn't it okay? but I'm not good at it. I'm not good at
Right.
it. I'm like, oh, this is gonna suck. This client,
Okay,
they're gonna eat my lunch. So anyway,
before
I'm
we
about to have to roll too. So, but I know I'm a talker. So sorry I kept anybody.
okay, before we stop, can I ask you guys' opinion on something really quick?
Please.
So I was at the park with my daughter the other day, and this is so weird. I don't know. It's so weird. A police officer stopped me with a retired. He wasn't in uniform or anything. He was just walking his dog. But I said, "Oh, that's a beautiful dog. I think it's a Malinois or German Shepherd. It looked more like Malinois." Anyway, he said that she was just retired and he has PTSD, and so he wants her to become a service dog, but she's aggressive towards other people. And he wanted to know if I could train her, and I don't know if I should take on that challenge or not.
If you don't know if you want to take it, have him call me. I would do an assessment with them to be able to gauge the dog, because Malinois are great one-on-one. They make amazing service animals in all ways, shapes, and forms. They're fantastic. But my only concern would be how, I mean, like it's a retired police dog, right?
Right.
So it had to be in service while it was a police dog and interact with other people.
Right. But
so how is that different than?
I feel like we would have to do some conditioning on that.
Oh, for sure. For sure. There will be massive changes, but because of the type of dog that it is, it's very easily to change from one service to another, because we're just changing the job. We're just like we change jobs. We just got to teach it a new skill.
That's really interesting. I didn't even think about it like that. I guess that is true.
Yeah, we just teach it a new skill, give her a new purpose, and reinstate some clear new boundaries. It's a progression of life.
I mean, he lives like right down the street from me, apparently. So
yeah, I mean, I would be more than happy to do a mentoring with you. Like if you wanted to take on the challenge of the case, I would take on the challenge of mentoring you through the case.
Well, I'll message you on Facebook because I don't know what to charge him.
Okay.
That's
Yeah.
an interesting.
Yeah, we would need to discuss that in detail. So on the closing note, because we are right at an hour, on a closing note, do you guys have any suggestions on the thing? Because I'm going to be expediting Charlie's practices as far as his stuff for this week. And I'm going to be reporting back on next week's show so that I can be accountable on my own training for my own puppy, so that we have our own coherence in our lives. So are there any suggestions from you guys? Because I trust and value your opinions and all of the things that you do. And I'm so grateful that you guys have been here with me today. So go for it. I got a pen and a piece of paper.
Well, for me, I mean, what I was thinking, I mean, something that I deal with a lot with my dogs is them knowing my habits. So if there's like things that are like certain triggers, for one, the second I grab my headphones, I put these on, Riggs jumps. He knows I like to go on walks and listen to podcasts. Right. Sure. So he knows that means I'm GO. I'm gonna GO. If I say that, they'll bust in my office here. Sure. And, whatever. So one thing that you should try to do is like, so take your routine. You're talking about like pulling down the shades, like mix it up, like do it in reverse one day, like just go. Or if he like gets nervous if you like jingle the keys, or just like if he hears the boom, boom, like just mix it up for him, Sure. And I haven't seen Charlie in too long, sadly. So, I mean, I don't know how he's doing with all of it. So I don't know. The thing is that I like to be able to see before like giving you like advice that I'm like super comfortable with, but something that I do know works and do like something that could at least like you could be conscious of is like changing that routine up for him.
Sure. Absolutely.
Even like doing it at the different times of the day, like different times of the day, stuff like that. So maybe that'll help.
Yeah. So if I were to identify his triggers, it would be we've gotten over keys. He no longer is like worried about the keys. I guess it would be shades would get his attention right? He's not completely like pissed off at that point, but they would definitely get his attention. So I could start taking the shades down at night, sometimes, you know, because like during the day in California, unless I have a shade up outside, it might get a little bit too warm in here. But I could definitely work on doing the shades. And then I'm definitely going to be doing crate time with him. So I'm going to incorporate movie time and crate time together, so that way he can have, you know, his time in the crate or whatever, and I can have some movie time for myself. And then because he won't eat at this point in the crate either, so he's not okay with that at all. He's not okay with eating in the crate. He would rather starve. So we're gonna have to do a immersion therapy with him. Have you guys had to do any kind of immersion therapy before?
I have with Bluebell a little bit.
Uh-huh.
It wasn't extreme, but what I did is I downsized her crate, and
Uh-huh.
I know it sounds weird, but I feel like it made her more comfortable. But I would leave the door open all the time, and I would cover it with a blanket,
Mm-hmm.
so she could choose to come in or out. She had a choice.
Sure.
But I did that when I was introducing her to my sister's dog Charlie, and so I would leave the crate open. Charlie knew better. He's pretty well behaved for a golden retriever. But he would walk back and forth, and so she could go in there when she wanted if she was scared, and then she could come out. So maybe do the same thing with the engine. I know that might be a waste of gas, but you know,
So he's good. He's that one right there. I did do that one with the with the diesel engine, keeping the chassis running, because sometimes we have to be stationary with the chassis running for power. So I can turn the chassis on and he come back in the back and he'll chill out and hang out or whatever. And I've been able to put him in the kennel and turn it on and him actually start to settle. But as soon as I get in the seat and turn around, like I'm going to be at the steering wheel, it's over. So
I'm sure you tried this, but I mean, he's tiny. Holding him in your lap while you drive, so he can see there's.
We did a whole cross country trip from California to, let's see, he rode with me. Let's see. He rode with me from Texas to Tennessee to North Carolina, back down to Alabama, and back into Texas in my lap. And up over into Idaho and down through the Four Corners in my lap, and still it was panting the whole way. The whole side of the door was completely wet, like to the point where he would dehydrate himself. His tongue would crack. And we would have to take like 2 or 3 hour like breaks or whatever, and he would crawl underneath the seat, or not under the seat, underneath my legs, where I couldn't get to the pedals, and we would have to take like a 4-hour break before I could go again. So we went like 5,000 miles like that, and still nothing. He's just like, no, this is not what I want to do. So I'm thinking, and I've had a couple of people do some energy work on him and some other things. So I think I'm going to do the immersion therapy this week, really focus on that. And if you guys have anything over the next week or so that you want to add to it, or if you want to jump on a video call with me, just to kind of see if maybe we can combat this together, that would be super. And I wanted to take a note into the chat real quick and say hi to Lucy and Jasmine and Layla, and all of the Expanded Understanding family. I appreciate you guys being here, and the Fearless family too. If you guys come back and watch, anybody that's watching this as a live broadcast, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. James and Noelle, thank you guys so much for being here. I miss you guys so much. I can't wait to come back to Houston and see you guys face to face. And if you guys need anything, let me know. I'm out in California, but I'm here for you.
Well, that's nice to hear. Yeah, no, it's great. And Noelle, we didn't get to chat much.
No.
But I'm very happy that you're doing well. It's great to see Bluebell, and congratulations on being a mama. So I know that's been a few years, but that's so awesome. I'm so happy for you, and I'm sure you're doing an amazing job. And yeah, I just wish you like all the best. Kayla, been excited to be able to do this today. So we'll keep in touch. I'm gonna have my phone off for a week, so I'm gonna be off the grid. So that's gonna be very exciting for me. Probably gonna be triggering as well. So I'm gonna have to tell myself don't turn it on, but I'm not going to. So, but yeah, it's great. I've got to go feed my dogs. That's what I have to
Definitely go do that. Enjoy your trip. And then we'll talk to you guys soon. If you guys talk to Jeff, please send my love.
I will. I talk to Jeff all the time, so I will.
Awesome. Thank you guys.
Bye.
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 Bye.